Hey everybody, got a quick update here for the Dark Souls Blender update. Going to talk about installation and how to use the add-on. In addition to this video, there's a README file on the GitHub, which I'll also link to. But I wanted to make a video because some of this stuff's just easier to kind of go through visually. I'm going to try to get through this kind of fast, but there's a few things to cover. So without further ado, here we go. The biggest thing about this add-on is this update is that it should now work with Blender 2.8. You can see I have the latest kind of full release of Blender 2.82. There are a couple of things I need to go through before we get into the actual add-on. One is that this only works, as far as I know, with Prepare to Die Edition. So the Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition, not Dark Souls Remastered. I'm going to look into getting it to work with that, but right now I haven't put any time into that. So if it works with that, it's by some miracle. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't. The other thing is your Dark Souls Prepare to Die files have to be unpacked for modding before you can use this add-on. So to do that, you're going to go to Google and type in unpack Dark Souls for modding or unpack Dark Souls or whatever. I'm sure it will come up. This is the main mod for that. This is on Nexus Mods. It's called Unpack Dark Souls for Modding. Real simple. You're going to download this and follow the directions to unpack your Dark Souls files. You can still run the game when it's unpacked. This mods the game so that you can still mod the files, have access to the files, and play the game. But what that's going to give you is this data folder, or it's going to give you the subfolders in the data folder, I should say. So this would normally be in my Dark Souls data directory. I've moved it here just so I have a clean unpack. So this was unpacked a few minutes ago. So those are the two main things. Prepare to Die Edition currently, and be sure to unpack those game files. Now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to go to the GitHub for the add-on. And you'll see here, like I said, there's a README file at the bottom. It's also included within the files that come in the zip archive. I'm going to go to Clone or Download, this green button. I'm going to go to Download Zip, and that's going to download the zip file. Now, you can open the zip file and look at the files and read the README and whatever you want to do, but for Blender's sake, you do not need to unzip that. In fact, don't unzip it. Leave it zipped. Let me set up my interface here for a sec. Okay. For Blender's sake, just leave it zipped up in your download folder or wherever. And how you're going to install this is you go to Edit, you go to Preferences, and you're going to go up here to the, well, first off, it may start on one of these others. But go to the Add-on tab there. Go up here to Install, click on Install, and then you're going to navigate to where you downloaded that zip file. So I'm going to go to the Downloads folder in this case. I'm going to sort by date modified. 1135, yeah. So this is the one that I just downloaded that you saw me download. I'm going to hit Install Add-on. Now, if everything goes well, it will single out this specific add-on. You'll get no red. If you see red message down at the bottom, something's gone wrong. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But it's not enabled yet. So then you got to click this checkbox right here to enable it. Again, if you get error messages in red down here on the lower bar, that's not good. But hopefully you don't. And then this is important. There's one thing you have to do. You have to set some variables. So I'm going to expand this info panel here. There's 3 paths that it needs or wants. If you don't do this, it should still work. You just won't have any textures. So this is just for the textures to work. I'll go through these real quick. You should only have to do this one time. And you can do this a couple of ways. You can navigate to the actual directory through these through the interface here. If you hover over any of these, by the way, it'll tell you a little about what it's looking for. So I'm going to click on this folder. I'm going to go to my TPF directory. Now what that is, you remember that unpacked Dark Souls stuff I just showed you just a few seconds ago. Well, inside that there's a folder called Map, and inside Map there's a folder called TX. And inside of that, you have a bunch of TPF files. So that's the directory it's talking about. So let me delete these folders. I created those earlier. Okay, so you'll have a bunch of TPF files. So you're going to link basically to this. Now, if you do it through the interface in Blender, you're good. If you do it the way I'm about to show you, there's something you have to look out for. I'm going to copy this path up here, and I'm going to put it into Blender. Let me cancel that. I'm going to put it in right here. But if you do that, here's the catch. You got to be sure to put a backslash, because I think if you don't do that, you'll have a problem. But anyway, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to navigate to the DDS folder. So that's in my case, that is in data. And you could put, so I say navigate to the DDS folder. Let me back up. This DDS folder can be anywhere you want it to be. You're going to create your own folder or use an existing folder. I'm going to make a folder inside of map tx. I'm going to make a new folder called look, a new folder for DDS files. Okay, so I'm going to link to this and hit accept. If you do it through here, it automatically puts your backslash, so you're good. And then the last thing is, you don't have to do this, but this is totally optional. I like to make my own custom missing image texture. This is a really crappy one that I just made up. This is just so I recognize missing textures or can make it look however I want. You don't have to do this, but I like to do it. So I made an image file in Paint real quick. You're going to just go to that file from here. So I'm going to go to where I was. This file can be anywhere on your computer, doesn't matter. I'm going to click down here on missingimage.png. Now you can click text or log or any or DL. Don't do that. Pick an image file, bitmap, ping, JPEG, TIFF, DDS file, something like that. So there you go. And now, like I said, once you've set this up, you should be good to go, unless you reinstall the add-on, maybe update Blender, or just want to make some changes. Other than that, you should be good to go. You should have to set this just this once. So I'm going to close that. And now to get to that, you hit in your 3D viewport. You hit N. You'll get you can toggle your little tools over here. There's a new tab here called Dark Souls Import, and here we go. So these are all your options for importing Dark Souls meshes. This is the default setup. So use collections. So Blender 2.8 has a new system of organization and hierarchy. It uses something called collections. So if you have this checked, then each mesh you import will automatically, each file you import rather, will put all of those meshes inside of its own collection. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to go to, actually, let me back up. Let me not give you an example yet. I'll discuss this and then I'll give you an example. If you check this, they all go into a collection. If you uncheck it, they all just get thrown into this one big collection. So they're just all lumped together. That's fine. Do whatever you like there. It defaults to being on. Use legacy nodes. That has to do with the way textures and materials are applied. Shouldn't make a huge difference to anybody who knows how to make their own changes. If you don't know anything about textures and stuff, just leave this unchecked. But basically, that's whether it uses the principled BSDF shader or the old school way of doing textures. It's off by default, so it will use the principled BSDF shader. And then you have your import button. So when I hit this, as I started to do a second ago, a little prematurely, it's going to now want you to link to particular file types. And I'm going to go to my data folder. This is unpacked Dark Souls data. And there are a few folders that have data that you may be interested in. Inside the character folder, you scroll down, you've got CHR BND files. So I can click on any of these BND files and it'll bring in the model from Dark Souls. So there we go. So this looks like a blade. So if I click on this, we'll see, okay, so you may recognize this as the missing textures folder, image rather. So in this case, and in a lot of cases with character stuff, it's not able to find the textures it needs. This is a bug I know about, and I'm working on it. I don't know when I'll get that resolved because I've been pretty busy. But nonetheless, that's what that's about. Sometimes you'll get lucky, and let's see, I don't know if I'll get lucky. Let's try this guy. Okay. Did not get lucky, but sometimes you'll get some textures load up, some don't. I'm going to delete that. So I deleted these characters, these meshes, but you'll notice the collections still remain. So if you just click on those and hit delete, you can get rid of those as well. Another quick gotcha while I'm thinking about it is whatever collection is active, and that is whichever one has the little outlined a little box there, the newly imported collection will show up inside that collection. So I'm going to go to another folder. So pretty much these top three, in my case, they won't always be in this order. The character, the map, the object, and the parts folders. Those are the ones you'll be interested in. So if I go to parts, for instance, these are all going to be like armor, stuff like that. Import that. We got some armor here. So there we go. And but if I click on this collection here and I do an import of a different thing, you'll see that this collection is inside of this collection now. You can remedy that pretty easily by just clicking and dragging that collection out of there. So there you go. All right. Let's see, what else is there? We have map and we have OBJs. OBJs are just props in the game basically. So we have part of a bonfire here. Okay, and then lastly, like I said, there are maps. I'm going to go to 10. Any of these that have the longer folder names will be different areas in the game basically, and you can import different chunks of those. Let's go. Looks like we had the Undead Burg here, maybe the Parish. Yeah. So okay, so this is probably where you fight, near where you fight the Taurus demon. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to mention real quickly before I head out is that you see how shiny this building is. So if this has to do with the kind of default BSDF settings. I might modify this in the future, but if I click on this wall and I go to the shader node in the shader editor window, these are all kind of clumped together, unfortunately. I'm going to spread these out and I'll show you. You can see already, if I zoom in on this, you can see how the specular defaults to 50%. Now I can crank that down and make this look a little more, or probably play with the roughness too. So maybe play with the roughness, adjust these until it kind of looks a little more natural. Another thing that I found that works sometimes, you might try, is you can actually plug in the color channel from the diffuse texture into the specular. And sometimes that'll give you, it's basically using the color data as the diffuse map, or as a specular map. Like these plants here, they're looking kind of shiny, kind of dumb looking. So I'm going to click on those. It's the same thing. I'll just plug that color into the specular, and then they're a little more reasonable there. So anyway, that's just something you can tweak and adjust. Obviously, if you're going to do a render, you're going to want to play with some of the materials and lighting and stuff anyway. So that's just a quick thing I wanted to mention that I've noticed that I may update in the future to come into at more reasonable values. Another thing is if you bring in metal armor, it's not trying to plug in anything that's going to make it metallic. So you'll want to come in and you may use this, instead of using specular, you use metallic and that sort of thing. So I made it. But anyway, so I think that's basically everything. I'm trying to decide if there's anything else I've missed. No, I think that's about it. If you have any feedback, any bug reports or anything like that, like I said, I'm aware that sometimes there are two main bugs that I'm aware of. One is that sometimes the textures aren't found, and sometimes it'll apply the wrong textures. Specifically if you go to README, that level, and some other places, it'll give you weird textures sometimes. That's something that I want to work on in the future when I have time. But if you find any other kind of novel bugs, do let me know. You can either give a bug report on GitHub, or you can email me directly if you check the README file for the info to do that. Anyway, I think that's it. Thanks for checking it out, and I hope this comes in handy.